Hello everyone, Michelle here from Gardening with the Landscape Connection. I am in Northern Illinois. Today we are going to talk about the 3 easiest ever houseplants to grow. So if you are a beginner gardener, I would definitely recommend these 3 houseplants to start with. And if you're someone that's already been gardening and it's wintertime and you're looking for something green to get your hands on, these 3 houseplants are super easy to grow because there's so many different conditions that they will grow under. Almost anyone can be successful growing them. So let's check them out. Last week I did a video on forcing bulbs in water, and one of the things that I did was I brought them upstairs to this loft area, and I have this little nook right here that gets really good light. So this is where I decided to create like a little studio area. It's an area where I can go and just relax. The girls can come up here and take a break. I can do little interviews up here. I can film up here, and I just created this little oasis area up here for us to just kind of use and hang out and be inspired. And we brought a bunch of houseplants up here. So I'll give you a little tour of that in just a minute. I love how it turned out. Today though, as gardeners, what do we do in the winter? Well, we go inside and we start messing around with our houseplants, right? That's what I do. Now, I'm not a big houseplant person because I have the worst light ever in my house. I have one room where I can actually grow some decent houseplants that need good light. But today I'm going to talk about 3 plants that even if you have crappy light in your house, you can grow these 3 because they are plants that will grow under low light and they'll grow under indirect light. These are also plants that I have at my house, and I drag them outside so that they can enjoy the beautiful summer weather and the sunshine, and that's when they put on most of their growth. And so I love that I can take all of my house plants outside in the summer, bring them back in the winter where I'll pay attention to them because it's winter, and have that taste of green that we're all craving by the time we get to January or February. Now, I'm definitely going to be craving it here in the next 48 hours because we are going to get our first taste of winter right now. We are going to get 1 to 3 inches of snow today, and then 5 to 8 inches tonight is what they're calling for. The whole system might fall apart. We're hoping that we get some snow because it's a great insulator for my plants, but then it's supposed to snow again and keep snowing tomorrow morning, and we're supposed to get another 1 to 3 inches. So that could be like 12 plus inches of snow, and I have to plow. So I'm not looking forward to that. So I like it when it's like 2 inches. Those are easy plows. When you have to plow 8 inches of snow, that is not a good time. But we will do it because that's some of the things that we do as part of having a construction company, a garden center, and a floral store. So without further ado though, let's talk about houseplants. So we're going to get started here on talking about our 3 easy houseplants in just a second. I just wanted to take a second to say welcome to all of you new viewers out there. And for those of you that don't know me, I am Michelle. I live in Northern Illinois. I own a garden center. I'm a home gardener just like you guys. I want to thank you for tuning in. And if you like our videos, please subscribe. Click the notification button so that you know when our videos come out. And then make sure you leave your comments below because I would love to hear from you guys. So let's get started. Okay, are you ready? This is number 1. This is a Sansevieria trifasciata. I don't know if I'm saying that right, and I'll put the name up there for you. Now, you also might have heard it called a Dracaena trifasciata, or maybe a viper's bowstring hemp, or is it a St. George's sword, or a snake plant, or a mother-in-law's tongue? Well, guess what? It's all of those. This plant has more names than I can think of, and if you know of another one, put it in the comments below because I was surprised that I found as many as I did. Now, the Latin names are because the Sansevieria has always been classified in the Dracaena family since 2017, and so you might see it listed under both names, and that can be confusing, but it's the same plant. And snake plant is the one that I remember, and so that's what I call it. But this is my first plant on the list that is super easy to grow. Now, the variety here that I have is a moonshine. It is a trifasciata. There are a lot of different snake plants out there, and they will adapt to different lights. So you want to read the tags to make sure you get the one that's right for you. If you're looking for one that is really adaptable, this cultivar right here, super adaptable. Not only will it grow in indirect light, but it'll grow in low light as well. And it wants to completely dry out in between waterings. So if you forget to water it for a couple weeks, guess what? It's probably not going to die on you. It is kind of got this nice rubbery textured leaf on here that's really super thick, and it does store water in its leaves. So if you forget about it, you'll have a hard time killing it. One of the biggest benefits that a snake plant has is its air purifying qualities. This is one that is really good if you're looking for that plant to add to your collection or to bring into your house and you want to purify the air. Get a snake plant because they do this job beautifully. Also, unlike some plants that don't produce oxygen at night, this one produces oxygen at night. So not only is it working during the day, it's working all the time. What's not to love about this plant though? Look at this. This is absolutely gorgeous. And it's got a different look to it than like some of your round leaf plants. And I like it because it's got that vertical height to it. Now, one of the things you want to remember with a snake plant is it is a slow grower. Now, if you want this thing to get really big, because this is one of the cultivars that will get really big, give it more light than less light. Transplant it up to a bigger pot once a year and make sure you're fertilizing it during the active growing months. Now, when I fertilize mine, let me grab my fertilizer. You can do this a couple different ways. Now, if you are that kind of person that totally, you want the plant, but you don't want the work of a plant, this is the fertilizer for you. These food spikes from Miracle-Gro, because you kind of put these in and then you don't have to do it again for a while. So on here, it tells you the diameter of the pot and how many spikes to put in. And it tells you during the active growing season, which is usually spring through summer, how many of these to put in. And then you just do that every couple months. Just set a little reminder on your phone so that you go and do it. Now, if you want to fertilize with a liquid, I like the Organic Grow from Espoma. This one, you mix in your watering can and then you water that way. I have most of my biggest growth in the summer, and I bring my stuff outside. Outside, every plant that I ever bring out there, I swear, it just doubles in size in one season. And so if you want to get these really tall and big, more light will be better for them as far as like growing them up as fast as you can. Now, there's no house plant out there that's a super, super duper fast grower, but you can certainly grow them to some pretty decent size. Now, the one place these don't like, they don't want to be in direct sunlight. So if you do take yours out in the summertime, don't put it right in full blasting hot sun. And if you have a south window, don't put it right up against the window where you can get leaf scorch on your leaves and you'll see the tips start to turn brown. The number one thing that I see people do with this plant that probably is, I don't know, the number one issue is they overlove it. They overwater it. And if you overwater a snake plant, then you are going to have root rot and these will pull right out. You absolutely need to have this in a pot with good drainage, and you need to have a soil mix. I like to use a cactus mix with this because it's going to allow the water to drain through a lot faster. And so this isn't like a plant that you missed or you just give it a little bit of water. Basically what you're doing is you're going to totally water it, get the roots wet, and then all that water will travel up through the leaves and then it'll store it in there. And that's how you can go so long in between your waterings. Make sure it's completely dry before you water it for the next one. Now, we're not talking desert dry, the soil is pulling away from the side of your pot kind of thing. Although I've seen that, and then you water them and they come back. You can't do that like 100 times though and expect the plant to live. And I don't care how easy any house plant is, you still got to give it a little bit of love. And if you don't want to give it any love, get a plastic plant. But super easy, and if you're a beginner, I highly, highly, highly recommend this plant. The other thing you can do is you can get babies out of this. So if you want to transplant this to make more, you can. The leaves pull out really super easy, and you can either propagate them in water or you can let the bottom harden off and then just put them right in soil and they'll grow that way. Now, if you're trying to grow a really big plant, I highly recommend that you don't separate them to try to get babies. You want to keep this plant intact and allow it to continue to grow. And as I said, when you pot these up, always pot them up just one size higher as you move it up into the next pot. They don't like to go into like a pot 5 times bigger. So this one here, I have in a 10-inch pot like here. And so when I'm ready to transplant this in the spring, I will put this in a 12-inch pot, and I'll just go to the next size up. Okay, so there you have it, snake plant number 1. Now, I have a blog that I started. It's called trustedhouseplantguide.com. I had to read that because it's a new blog. I just started it, and it's all about houseplants. And as we progress through the year, I'll be adding more and more houseplants onto the blog and how to take care of them. And the first 3 that I did write about were these, the snake plant, and this next one that I'm going to talk about. So if you want more in-depth information, go check it out. Number 2 on my list is a spathiphyllum, or a peace lily. Now, peace lilies are absolutely easy to grow, and they're beautiful and they're elegant, and they get fairly large. We probably send out more peace lilies and funerals than any other plant in our store because they are so elegant. And did you know that beyond being this lush, beautiful green plant with these really pretty flowers, if you get a lot of them in a row, they put off a little light scent. They are actually steeped in a lot of meaning. This plant actually symbolizes peace. It's a peace lily, right? Well, it also symbolizes purity and tranquility. So it's the kind of plant that doesn't just sit quietly in the room. It actually adds some calmness to your space. So whether you're giving it as a gift to somebody, you're sending it to a funeral, or you're buying it for yourself, this is a plant that will bring some hope and harmony into your space. And face it, who doesn't need some of that right now? So one of the things to be able to have a nice, healthy peace lily is you need to have good potting soil. And that's the key. You want to have potting soil that's going to drain, because these guys don't want to sit in standing water. And I know a lot of people will bottom water these, but that's not the way to do it. You really want to make sure that when you're watering this, you get that water in right here. Now in the summer, it's going to need more water than in the winter. And in the winter, you can reduce that amount of watering that you're doing to maybe once every 1 or 2 weeks, depending on the size of your plant and the size of your pot. Because if you look at this one is just in a little 6-inch pot. But if you look behind me here, I have a really big one right here. Let me move the camera. Look at this big one that I have right here in a big 10-inch pot. Now this one doesn't have any flowers on it, but if I were to get the camera and go down inside of there, I can start to see some flowers starting to push up on this one. Now the reason I brought this little 6-inch plant was because I wanted to show you some different things on here that can happen. So the number one reason that people lose peace lilies is not due to underloving them, because I've seen these guys, I'm not kidding, literally wilt down onto the floor and have them get rehydrated and stand back up again. The one thing that I see that happens with peace lilies that they die from is overwatering. And so they want a nice balance of water. They want to dry out in between waterings, but they don't want to stay dry. So they want that consistent watering. And so the one that I have at home, I actually have a water globe in it, and that's how I water mine, so it stays this nice consistent moisture. Now here, the one thing you want to look for is if it's drooping, that basically is telling you that it is getting not enough water. If you have leaves that are turning yellow and brown, that's going to tell you right away that you're overwatering it on a peace lily. So 2 easy signs to know one way or the other how you need to adjust what you're doing. You want to be a fussy little mommy? You can mist these because they do like misting. And so they like to be in a bathroom. Now, some bathrooms have light and some don't. These aren't going to grow in the dark, you guys. They do need some light, but they will grow in low light conditions and they will grow in indirect light conditions. The one thing I have found with mine that it absolutely hates is being next to a register vent, because it dries it out too fast, and it doesn't like that because it likes the humidity. And so if you have a humidifier in a room, it will like that as well. Now, what we like to do is when the flowers are spent, when these flowers are done, you do want to follow that stem down and cut those out, because that's going to produce more flowers faster. If you leave them on there, 1, they don't look good, and 2, you're just going to wait a really long time for the next set of flowers to push out. Now, the peace lily is another one that I like to transplant once a year, and I will do it in the spring when it's actively growing. And how do I know whether or not I need to transplant it when I buy one from the store? Well, what I do is I actually take this pot off. Okay, if you can get the pot off really easy. Ooh, let me see if I can get this one off. Here we go. I just had to squeeze it a little bit. All right, here is my root system. Okay, so this root system is fairly full. It's nice and white. I don't see roots going this way, but they are starting to grow up and down, and it's getting crowded in this little 6-inch pot. That is definitely a sign that this guy needs to be transplanted up. So I would do this now, even though it's winter, into the next size up. So I would go from a 6-inch pot to an 8-inch pot. Once this guy gets all settled in, I'll check him again in the fall to see if he needs to be potted up again. So if I want to grow him really big, I need to feed him fertilizer. And so fertilizer is what you're going to be feeding them in the active growing months, spring and summer. I like to use the Grow from Espoma, and I just mix it up right in my watering can. I do take them outside because I take all of my houseplants outside in the summer. I start fertilizing usually in April. I usually don't bring my houseplants outside though until it's above 50 degrees. And that's like all the time. And even then, I'll take them outside and get them used to being out there for a couple hours, bring them back in, do that the next day for like 2 or 3 hours, bring them back in, and then do that for a week. And every day I leave them outside just a little bit longer all week long until they're kind of acclimated to being out there. So I want the temperatures to be 50 degrees, not just during the day, but at night also, because I don't want these guys to freak out. And then the next thing you know, I spent all this time loving on this houseplant and it croaks because I got a cold night and I didn't harden it off. And that's what you're doing when you're bringing it in and out every day to get it used to being outside. The other thing is, even if a houseplant could take hot blazing sun, I never put mine in the afternoon sun. Mine are always protected in really good light. So they're either on my front porch, which is covered, but it gets really good light, or they're on my back deck, which has a lot of trees that cover it and give it shade. So there's really good light, but they aren't getting blasted by the hot afternoon sun. All right, number 2 on the list is the Spathiphylla, or the peace lily. I love this plant. Super easy if you're a beginner. And even if you're not a beginner, this is a great plant to add to your house collection. The last one on my list, number 3, is Zamioculcas zamiifolia. I don't even know if I said that right. That is a mouthful. ZZ plant. That's what I'm calling it because I can say that. So this is another one that's super easy to grow and will grow under a lot of different conditions. That's why I chose these 3. Now, I'm not saying that these 3 are pet friendly. Stay tuned for my next plant video, which will be next week. We'll talk about 3 beginner plants that are totally pet friendly, kid friendly. And if you have that going on at your house, this will be the video for you. But for today, these are just 3 easy ones to grow. So if you're looking to add to your collection and you don't have to worry about any of those things, like I have no kids, no pets, no anything like that at my house. I have all of these growing at my house. I have all 3 of these growing in my studio. So I love these because they're so easy to grow. And for more information on all 3, don't forget to go to my blog, trustedhouseplantguide.com. Why did I start a blog? Because I needed a place to send my customers to get care information for all the plants that we have. Because not all the vendors that I use send care tags on their houseplants. I don't understand why growers who grow houseplants don't put a tag on every single plant that they sell to a garden center or a grocery store or a box store or wherever. You're lucky if you can find a care tag on them. Now, I will say Proven Winners has that new House Joy collection, and they put tags on all of their plants, and I love that. But those aren't the only plants that I carry in my store. So it was one of the reasons why I started the blog, was so that I had an area to send my customers to get information about all the house plants. And so the 3 that I'm talking about today are on there. You can check out more in-depth information if you want to. What's interesting is that I was doing just a little bit of research on this plant just to make sure I had all my facts correct. And one of the things that I kept coming up with over and over and over again was death plant, death plant. And I'm kind of like, what are they talking about? And they were talking about how this plant can kill people. And I'm kind of like, wow, really? I don't live in the world of one extreme or the other. I kind of live in the world of common sense. And so as I was reading it, it was like, if you eat the plant, it can kill you. And it's like, well, yeah, if you eat a lot of it, and who's going to eat this plant? And I don't know. I'm still going to talk about it because it's a super easy plant to grow. And again, I live in the realm of common sense, not one extreme or the other. So again, even though these plants can thrive in a lot of different lighting conditions, they do the best in indirect light, which means that they want light like in a room from a window, but they don't want to be in the window. They just want to have good light. Now, if you don't have that, you can certainly put them in an area that has a lamp. That will work too. And I have grown these in lower light conditions. I find though that they like a little bit of light better, and they actually do really well in a bathroom. If you have a window in a bathroom and you can kind of place it away from that, they like the humidity from the shower, so they like the bathroom. ZZ plants are pretty tolerant of watering too. They are another one of those ones that wants to dry out in between waterings. And you know what? How do you know? Stick your finger in there. And if like you go down like, you know, an inch and it's dry, then you probably need to water it. It is probably going to stress more from overwatering, where the stems will get really super weak and then they'll kind of rot out, than from any kind of underwatering that you can do. So underloving these guys, yeah, they like that. Now, the ZZ plant doesn't like really super hot conditions. So if you live in an area where you're going to take your plants outside in the summertime and it gets like brutally hot out there, they actually don't like that. They prefer to be between 65 and 75 degrees. The other thing is cactus soil again. So if you had to buy a bag anyways for your snake plant, you might as well buy some for this plant too, because it's one of the ones that wants good drainage, and definitely wants to have drainage in the pot so that the water can seep out the bottom. And it doesn't want to sit in a tray of standing water. Does not like that. You will rot the roots out and it'll croak. You won't want it, and it won't want it. So don't do that. Let it dry out. They also don't like drafts, so they don't want to be by a drafty door, drafty window, register vent. They don't like any of that. The other thing is they're pretty slow growers, so you got to have patience with these guys. Transplant them up once a year, and again, I only fertilize them during the active growing season. Now, this one and the snake plant, I only fertilize once a month. That peace lily, I probably will fertilize every other week once the season gets going. Outside of that, yeah, I have a tendency to underlove my house plants because I get so busy in the spring. So I need plants like this. Me desperately need plants like this. Look at these beautiful leaves. I just love these. I'm petting my plant. They like it when you talk to them. I think they just like your CO2. But anyways, these 3 plants are definitely ones that you need to add to your collection. Not only are they easy to grow, but they're all different, they're all beautiful, and they're all very, very versatile. If you don't have these 3, I would get them. And if you're just thinking about getting some houseplants, I would get these 3. And if you don't have a lot of room, start with small ones because you can find these in little 4-inch pots and then grow them up from there. So let's take a look at the whole studio. I don't think I showed you that yet. So let's take a look at that. And while we're at it, we'll check out the bulbs that we started. I think it's been 6 days since I did the video on forcing the bulbs in water. We'll check those out and see how they're doing too. All right, so here it is. Here is my little studio that I made up here in this little nookie area in the upper loft area. And as you can see, we've added quite a few plants to it. We've added the ones that we talked about today because they're super easy to grow. We've got our snake plant over here. I have a peace lily here. And look, there's my ZZ plant. I also have a patio palm and some echeverias. I have an aloe. I have an agave, a Klingon fig right here. And then look, 2 of our big peace lilies right here. I just love how this whole area turned out. I am so stoked to be able to spend time up here and just have a place to be inspired, to do interviews, to relax. I'm just so pleased with how this turned out. My girls like it too. They like to come up here and take their breaks. All right, it's been 6 days since I did the forcing bulbs in water video. And as you can see here, see how the bulbs are starting to come up. These were the tulips. And then over here, these are the daffodils. Look at them. They're all peeking out of there. And you can see the roots. Look at all those nice, healthy white roots on there. I have had to add a little bit of water once. So far, I'll probably have to add maybe in 2 days a little bit more. The branches themselves aren't doing a whole lot, but you can see the bulbs are all starting to peek out of their little shells. So super happy with the progress of how those are going, and we'll keep you updated. Check out those big flakes. Here comes the snow, and I have to go get ready. So I hope you enjoyed our video today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, I hope if you don't have these plants and you love these plants, you'll go give them a try. I'm Michelle. Keep on gardening, you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.